Hey, it's Shabes, and welcome to another edition of AniTube Digest, where we go over the best and not so best anime YouTube videos to come out this week from the 14th of July to the 20th of July. And it's better audio this time, hopefully, because I flipped the camera the other way, and it somehow has better audio. But I can't see myself anymore. I'm very upset. First, for the video that I thought was not good. Ow. And I hate to do it to the guy. I really do. But, you know, I call it like I see it, really. I was not pleased with the video. I walked away from it pretty upset, I guess. And I should have taken notes to what happened to anime. Part 2 out of 2 from AlexEnterprises. It's a sequel to a video we put out over a year ago. I'm talking about, you know, people, they wonder what happened to anime, and the modern anime stinks, and, it going from good looking to not good looking. And this is a very tale as old as time kind of take. And, it was just frustrating. I think the first part was also kind of frustrating, but like the second part, especially the more it went on, kind of towards the latter half, was especially frustrating because it just ended up coming off to me as just a lot of the same ideas and a lot of the same takes that everyone has. And Alex, I don't think, put a lot of his perspective into it so much. I think he was trying to find like an objective and kind of like, not trying to make it opinionated. And I can understand the sentiment behind that. You don't want to be like too kind of butthurt or off, about it. But like, seeing in the way you edited it and the subject you're bringing up at all, it does seem like you hold these opinions that you're talking about, but you don't outright endorse in the video. It's like you're talking about these things, detaching yourself from it. And I get the utility in it, but it just came off really frustrating when clearly I think you have I think you are sharing these viewpoints. Otherwise, I don't think you would be immersing yourself so heavily in them and spending so much time on them. And what I mean by the same old kind of arguments, you see it with the thumbnail at least, and he does very articulately go by like, this is the 95 anime, and then they made 2045. But I get that you have like originally the comparison is Ghost in the Shell 95 and this new movie, like Ghost in the Shell the movie or something, kind of one of the other iterations, like a little later. But those are not the only adaptations, and it's a whole franchise, Ghost in the Shell. And, you don't take into account with Innocence, which, like, Innocence is going way further and kind of doing what 95 was doing, but, like, the original movie, but, like, even more CG and for other reasons and things like that. It's also, like, the original movie is a little more accessible. I think just overall, there's points that you brought up, and that all of them, I think, have more nuance to them. Like, the point you make about Thundercats Roar, and to the degree where you're making the argument that it was animated, like this is a reason why traditional is better than digital. Like the Thundercats Roar looks the way it does because it's digitally animated and like made in the late 2000s. No, it just isn't. It really just isn't. It is clearly taking a different direction with the franchise. It's not being serious. It's making a goof and a gag and making more of a cartoon and not like an action-packed, more like a serious thing. And people just didn't want that. And I think you're missing, like, he takes the like-dislike ratio on the trailer for this YouTube video for the reveal of Thundercats Roar as an objective, like, people weren't happy. Well, no, I think people clearly are seeing this as a recurring trend in the grander scheme of things, not because it's digital. That doesn't make any sense to me. It was because people were upset at seeing these older properties that used to be serious and more like, not contemporary, I guess, but like action-packed and taking themselves seriously, and making them gags and like goofs and cartoons and stuff, and making it look silly and weird. like they did with Teen Titans and Teen Titans Go. I think the Teen Titans Go hate train is really fueling that, and that was just another example of that. And She-Ra was part of that as well. And there's so much broader cultural things going on. It had nothing to do with the fact that it was digitally made. Like there are animations being made now today with digital technology that look fantastic or look really interesting or are pushing the boundaries in some way. You don't talk about those, of course. And of course the conversation goes the opposite way. And this happens all the time when people make this argument. They only focus on the most popular and most successful titles like Akira or Ghost in the Shell or any of the anime you bring up, when there is way more crap that was made in that period that you are completely ignoring. And it's just tunnel vision. It's selective hearing. And it's so frustrating. And then like the whole video was just was like front loaded with quotes from like Freud and these other philosophers, and I just felt you were just quoting them for the sake of quoting them, and it didn't feel like propulsive in a way. It didn't feel like you were building to a point. It was just like establishing a lot of like, here's this quote, and here's this quote, and here's this quote. And it was very disjointed in that way. And then you just talk about fucking Thundercats Roar and the new like CG bad or whatever. And I'm happy you didn't like. I am happy that it didn't feel like belly aching or like complaining about this sort of thing. It didn't feel that tired. But the actual arguments themselves were so bland to me. It's just like, yeah, of course. And I don't know. And it sucks that you were talking so much about like Western animation. When the video itself is what happened to anime specifically, and it was really frustrating. And it's like, anime boomed in the 90s. Like, no, it really didn't. The late 90s, it certainly had a resurgence, but it had nothing to do with the technological advances they were having. It was because, okay, so it's a whole different thing. It's much broader, you know? The anime that you're bringing up were very experimental and late night TV anime, and that was brought on by Neon Genesis Evangelion. And that has nothing to do with the technological pushes and stuff. And I think you were making an argument that like it was marrying cell animation with digital animation, best of both worlds. Thus, that's the best. It's the cross section. That's the best anime that come out that period. When that's really not the case. If you look at like the rest of anime that came out in the late 90s to early 2000s, there's so many Digipaint. We call them Digipaint shows because they couldn't get the handle of them, and they were awful. I'm sorry, this video just kind of pissed me off a lot. It was really frustrating. And it's just like, I know you can do way better than this. I don't know. Like, digging a little deeper to some examples. I like that you were using Belladonna of Sadness, for example, for some of the clips you were talking about. But even that film has a much broader contextual thing going on, right? It's not the fact that it's experimental and artsy and everything. It's the kind of the last gasp of that studio, and after that production, they broke off completely, and that was a really big deal because Mushi Production is, you know, the people that made Astro Boy and started all of these careers and everything. It's a really major history point, and Belladonna has a very specific reason for why it was doing all those things. But I don't know if necessarily that is because of the advent of cell animation. Because, like, you know, people, as difficult as it is, and I like that you mention, you know, some of the difficulties with cell animation that force them to be good. And, like, there's no undo button, and therefore it's not pristine, I guess. But that still doesn't stop a lot of mediocre art from happening in this entire period of time that cell animation was happening. Just because it's hard doesn't mean that people still didn't do it, and it turned out not that good. And, you know, and again, I think this conversation flips the other way, where you didn't really talk about a lot of the experimental things that are happening in productions like Beastars or Demon Slayer or Sword Art Online even. Like Sword Art Online Alicization, like the second half of it airing right now. You know, people are tweeting like some of the fantastic amounts of animation that are being accomplished with these technologies, and there's a lot of great advantages to it. And I just think it's way more of a nuanced thing. And despite you seemingly taking an unbiased look at it. It didn't seem unbiased to me, given the points you were making. And again, I really hated that you were using the like to dislike ratio of a YouTube video to make a judgment on quality of something. Or if people didn't like this, it's like, you can't really make, I don't know, it's a sweeping statement like that with such a niche thing. And obviously they're going to make a physical statement about it. It's I wouldn't say politicized necessarily, but it's predictive. Like, are we really going to like factor in the like to dislike? Like just today, the day I'm recording this, the Nintendo Direct, they had this little mini Direct, and they only announced a couple things from the Atlas publisher, Shin Megami Tensei 5 and these other things, and this HD remake of this game that presumably a lot of the people who were watching this Direct had never heard of. And they dislike bombed it a shit ton because they want their Smash Brothers, they want their F-Zero, when it's like, no, that was actually a pretty fitting Direct, and they said that it was going to be short, and it's like, you were overhyping your expectations sort of deal. But are we really going to take the like to dislike ratio in that instance as a objective factor? It's ridiculous to think that, in my opinion. It like to trust the anonymity of the internet that it's just silly to me. You can say that these things were financially successful, like, you know, and unfortunately we can't really say anything too much about the Ghost in the Shell, the new one, because we don't really have objective figures because it's on a streaming service. But like, you know, I think there's more objective ways to say it's critically acclaimed or publicly not as beloved sort of deal. But it just was very tiring. It's like, of course you can talk about fucking Thundercats. I mean, there was just so much about it, and I'm sorry I didn't take notes so much, but it was just frustrating to watch. And I'm sorry I'm being hard on it, right? But it was just, I was really upset by it. But yeah, oh well. What would it be? What it do? I'm sure your next one will be fine and better and stuff. You're good. It just the rare L, and I gotta be honest with you, man. Like your content otherwise, but it's just, oh well. All right, now for the videos. Most of them that I watched this week that I thought were decent. I liked it. It was a good thing I watched to check it out, perhaps. GabbyElla talking about Belladonna of Sadness, meaning and philosophies of such. She didn't really go into the production history, as I was just talking about with Alex's video, but and there's a lot to it. It's very interesting, but it was mostly from like kind of a vacuumous perspective, and kind of like as a film, how she appreciated it. Gave it a decent score, but was pretty vocal about, not like super vocal on it, but like, you know, pretty adamant. I don't know what the word is really. Forward, I guess. She didn't hesitate to talk about the kind of the problematic elements and kind of how they frame Belladonna, how they frame the main character, Jan. Yeah, Jan. I'm sorry. I have troubles with pronouncing them too, to be honest. Jan, I think. But yeah, and how like she's very much abused, and that the system around her is exponentially shitty. Although that's certainly the idea, I think. I think it really is like meant to be like it did in spite of this system. But Gabby says like she gets development, but in the wrong way. And the wrong way is in terms of like, yeah, she makes a deal with the devil and becomes evil, becomes enchanted, becomes kind of a legit witch. And it's not the best. It's a fairly toxic path that she takes in the circumstances. But it's certainly like horrible events kind of beget other horrible events sort of deal. And you know, the desperation of the Black Plague and things like that. I like that she talked more about kind of like the substance and like overall dressings and stuff, kind of connecting it to the Japanese hippie movement and things like that, and taking a lot of different inspirations. I liked that, but I was happy to hear that from her, and I'm liking that this string of content she's making recently. She's just kind of like going real into these older films from like the 70s, 80s and stuff, and making videos on those. And it's very underrepresented, and I like the niche that she's carving for herself, and it's really interesting, and I like them. They're very comfy. Good shit. I got a video from Replay Value talking about Shokugeki no Soma. Did it ever have good direction? Talking about how he dropped it at points with season 3 or 4 and how it became just a pan fest and very rigid and not very exciting season. Didn't really feel the incentive to check out season 5, but he wanted to use this as an opportunity to look back on season 1, and it's like, so why did I have that feeling about these recent seasons, but not about the first one? And then also perhaps check out season 5, and maybe they improved it, and I guess they did a little bit. I think his points seemed sound enough, but they were a little difficult for me to follow at points. I don't really know. It's hard for me to like find the motivation of like rewatch videos like this and things, and rewind to stuff, but it was just hard to follow things at some points, and I'm sorry to not have any concrete reason why, I guess. But I got the impression, of course, where it's like, yeah, he was surprised at season 5, and he talked a lot about like kind of the utility of a pan and kind of like what could be used for it. And he was giving some examples here and there, like very pocket examples, but I don't know. It was it didn't have like a very specific through line or like categorical. It didn't feel like, I don't know. It was a bit fairly loose structure. It was a little meandery, I suppose. I'm sorry if it was very vague and not too helpful. But that's just kind of my gut feeling about it. But I did like the idea behind it and your overall reactions to it. Your point about not wanting to go page for page from the manga, and maybe, whether it's a good adaptation or something, he was saying that like kind of like the adaptation should stand on its own and yada yada. I'm sorry, yada. No, but like I fairly agree with that, but I think there is some utility in because people in doing that, because some people do want to make a choice. They want to do one or the other. They might not be invested in the story enough to do both. So when they're looking for somebody for judgment of like, yeah, so is the manga a better experience or is the anime? And yes, they're separate, but they're effectively the same story. And maybe they don't want to. If they like it so much that they'll do both, then that would be one thing. But it's not as likely, I suppose. But it's like, I don't know. There is some merit to comparing the two, even though they're two different mediums, and they're telling two different kind of experience. They're giving two different experiences. I think it's good the contrasting is fine. And I don't, the point you were making about like boiling down the percentage of how often they were using a specific technique, I think was a little jarring, because it's a case by case basis, really. And you bring that up where it's like, that's a good case of panning. That's not so good of a case. And it's not so much of like how often they're using it. But like, I just feel like you didn't go into what other things that Shokugeki no Soma is doing besides the panning that might make it good or poor direction. Talking about shot composition, I'm drawing a blank. But, and I think overall direction per se, like there's other, stage jobs in anime in terms of, script is a lot of dictated by the series composition. There's storyboard artists that might be individual to a particular episode, or one guy is doing the storyboarding for everything. Is it the series director? Is it somebody else? Did they not work on a certain episode and maybe that episode looks better? There's a lot that could be gained from looking at the staff of a show and the little nuances. There might be some differences here and there. I'm seeing that a lot with Group Watch that one of my servers is doing with Urza Yatsura. They post the staff list every episode, and they're like, oh, it's one of these guys' episodes, so we can expect this, this, and this. And it's like, this is around this point where they were working on this sort of thing, and kind of getting a more a metatextual appreciation of it. I just felt like that was something that was missing with this. When you're talking about direction, you're not really mentioning anybody. Did this show have different episode directors? Is there commonalities with this guy's episodes look like this versus this guy's episodes look like this, or they all kind of look the same, and you could probably attribute that to the series director. And I don't know, the stats of like there's 60% pans in this one versus this many percent in this other thing, I just think was kind of looking in the wrong place for me personally. But this didn't like piss me off or anything. I was happy to hear about this because I did have a similar, not problem, but like disinterest, I suppose. I did lose interest in Soma, I think a little earlier than you did. I think like one season before. I think season 2, I was just like, but you know, and that's fair. But like some of I think the other analysis that you're making seems pretty sound anyway. So that was interesting. I was happy to hear from you, and good to see you back, of course. Although I'm sorry that you're going through the comment sections with the crap with the adaptations and bullshit like that. It's a hornet nest. Ugh. Watch out! I'm talking about a Nux Taku video. Oh shit! Because you know, when a thumbnail like this catches my eye, and I'm like, okay, maybe this could be something. Cursed anime scenes #1, and we'll see how popular they are and how comfortable he is with doing them. And but I thought it was comfy for a good deal of it. You can tell that like Nux is. I don't know when this transition happened. It was probably a while ago, like a while ago. But you can tell he's starting to evolve himself past scripted content, and more towards trying to be off the cuff and live and practicing those skills and having a Twitch as well, which that's what it's all about, is, you know, being entertaining on the fly and in a live sort of setting. So this is a good vehicle for him to kind of practice that sort of thing and find riffs and find things that are funny about various things, about random stuff that he's not pulling up himself, that he's asking his Twitter followers to send him some scenes, and a lot of classic stuff too. It's like, oh yeah, it's this scene, and you know, stuff like that. And I think this is a good, to me, I see this always as a good opportunity to, like, you know, kind of showcase some of these shows that you wouldn't have otherwise talked about. You know, as a way to distribute and get more eyeballs on anime, period. And just like stuff that doesn't have a voice usually, because everyone's focused on the same couple of shows. So if they see a scene in this video that they like, you potentially is like, yeah, it was that show. That was interesting. And say some kind of about, it wasn't so, and I think that was something I was lacking in this video, and I get that wasn't the intention, of course. It's really just purely for entertainment, of course. That would be something I would encourage, I guess, is if possible. If it's difficult to and you really couldn't find it, then that, you know, would it be what it do. But kind of highlighting or just like calling attention to, this is what this anime's from, and you're not like recommending it obviously, but you're really just giving eyeballs to this because you have a huge platform. So I like that, you know, giving some of these clips a chance, and there might be somebody who sees some of these stuff and like, whoa, that was interesting, or that was funny, and they might want to watch it, you know. So I mean, I think that's I see that as the utility in this sort of video, and that's what I would have liked out of it, you know. And obviously I'm completely, he's like, no, fuck that. But I see the utility that I think you are trying to get out of it, which is practicing and getting more experience with comedy and being funny on the fly. And then, you know, it's not perfect, you know, but you could say you're kind of developing it in places, and there's some clips that are difficult to find stuff to say about, for sure. But you're getting better at it, I think, and that's exciting to see, because, you know, good to see more out of you, I think. And you are definitely becoming an influence to the point where influencer. I'm saying that to the point where there are channels that are, you know, taking from your style now, and you're having an impact on how anime YouTube structures itself, and like maybe does its editing. And I know you're gonna really have a foot in that game in terms of the editing. I just mean like the way Core and all these other guys are editing your videos kind of influence that, I suppose, or carry on that spirit that is probably descended from stuff like Demolition D or whatever. No, but you know, I think in terms of your personality and your comedy and what you see and what you value, there's starting to be kind of an impact, I think, which is really interesting. So it's always good to check in on you every so often, even though you're like, you know. No, but I did enjoy that a fair deal, even though, you know, a bit of a mixed bag in terms of, you know, some reactions were better than others, but, you know, what can you do about that sort of thing? But happy to see this new format. It was interesting. And speaking of formats, or in this case, it's a recurring format. I've covered one of these on I think I covered the first time he did this. The Anime Man roasting my own horrible taste in anime. And I put like his first one in like one of the best videos I watched that at the time, because like it was just so fun and entertaining, and a good vehicle for him to shout out these shows and talk and discuss them when he wouldn't have had an opportunity to otherwise. And I like that from him. And in this case, it's from his own mal, and it's very outdated. He hadn't at the time, he hadn't done any updates since like 2017. But like at the time, or at least when he was doing this video, he apparently had only completed 472. I was very surprised by that. I actually I would have thought he had watched way more. You know, he's seen more days, of course, because he sees more longer stuff. But that was interesting. Anyway, neither here nor there. But yeah, it wasn't as good for me in this time, because he gets to fix the scores. He gets to be like, I don't feel that way now. And I think that's what the video was mostly centered around this time. Because when it's somebody else's list, there's nothing you can do. That's what that person has scored, and he can't do anything about it. He can't change the score. But here there was a lot of like, oh, that's not right. I don't agree with that. And he's like tweaking some things to match his current opinions. But apparently it was strangely very accurate to what he still believes. Actually, he mellowed out a couple of hot takes that he had, like giving Mirai Nikki an 8, and he gave it a 7 or a 6 or something. It wasn't anything super drastic as like, this was a great show and now it's not. I don't think it was anything that strong. But let it be. I enjoyed it. It's too much. It's really not too much else to say, really. It's just like, yeah, that was a comfy time. I like hearing about his opinions and stuff. Cool. That's a thing. And kind of in a similar vein, to just kind of reacting to things and kind of off-the-cuff stuff, Vindy put out an hour-long video of watching anime TikToks. Now, I'm not really sure if it's supposed to be an hour exactly, because there's certainly some TikToks that are more interesting than others to show, and he doesn't have much to say about them. But I found a lot of the time he's not so much reacting to the TikTok of like in the broader context of things of like, this is an anime TikTok. Like, he doesn't really make a point of how many of them just weren't about anime. They had the tag, but they weren't about anime at all. It was like, what the fuck? That was very surprising to me. I just love I just like this video a lot because I am completely blind, and I know Vindy was too, so that was great to experience with him, going through the most popular TikToks with that tag with anime on it, and seeing what the landscape is like over in that Wild West of content creation. And some of it's very creative and exciting or funny, but a lot of it is what you would expect. And but a lot of it just wasn't about anime. I found that the most interesting. They just have the tag because they get a guy has an Akatsuki something or some poster in the background, and that's why it's anime. It has nothing to do with it. I just thought that was very weird. But it was like a lot of the rants that Vindy did here, and I guess he was drunk at the time when he did this, so he came out good for being drunk. I know. There was a lot of rants that he did that he was mostly talking about the person's character or conduct in the video, or just using it as a way to talk about Ahego hoodies. And he's like, man, I don't like that, and kind of riffing off on a various topic, kind of ranting about stuff. And it wasn't so much about the craft of the TikTok as much as it was about what was in it. Like there was one where it was definitely not about anime, but it had an anime-ish style. Like somebody was kind of animating some skit that he was telling in sort of the swoozy style with the animation and everything. Not as good, and but I guess it was more sort of anime, I guess. But it was talking about a particular kind of alcohol, and Vindy doesn't so much comment on the skit as or like the way it was made and the fact that it's on TikTok and everything and tagged with anime and it's not about anime, he goes off, is like, no, beer isn't, alcohol, if you drank this many of the, like, he was commenting on the story itself. And I'm like, okay, it wasn't exactly the commentary I was looking for, personally. But, you know, I think it was still a fun time, and it didn't feel like an hour at all. And that's a good compliment, I would say. It just felt kind of fun in that regard. But yeah, I liked that. But it was just, you know, the thing is, I was wishing more out of it, I guess. And I'm sorry I'm talking about this video, and it's like, wow, you're really not going to talk about like the stuff I actually put effort in, sort of deal. You know, it'd be like that. You know, the YouTube algorithm picks up the most mysterious shit. AniTube Digest picks up the most random shit. It's whatever interests me, dude. You know, it was like, oh, I want to know what anime TikToks are like. I've been meaning to, but never really had the motivation to. This is handy. So yeah, I was happy to do that. I enjoyed it. Redbard put out a 2.0 version of her very famous video. I don't know, famous, but like, you know, it's kind of the one she's known for sure. And I've seen other industry people kind of respect her for making videos like this, and having decent research put into them. Although the reason she's putting this second version out of the rise and fall of the yaoi paddle, I actually don't think I watched the first one. I don't remember watching the first one. But I watched this one because I was like, oh, 2.0, I wonder what's different, even though I have no frame of reference. And she talks about how she didn't really get as many sources, and she made a lot of mistakes and assumptions that really kind of ruffled some feathers, and just kind of wasn't ultimately a great thing. And you know, she basically made some mistakes in that video, making certain claims and not getting a bunch of sources and things. But she's much better at making these videos, as she says. She's like, I think this is a much better version of this video. And the other one is still linked in the description, unlisted, which is a good move. I really appreciate that. She's like, I don't want to perpetuate false information, but like, you know, it'd be shitty to censor this sort of thing. It's like, oh, you're going to take it down and hide it or something, hide your mistakes, you know. But I like that. The video itself, it's a Redbard video. It's, you know, it's pretty uniform. There really isn't actually that much information in it. It really, it's like, I don't know, like the certain points were talked about for a long time, but it just didn't feel like a big video. It doesn't feel like 23 minutes. It feels very, not substanceless. I guess the meat is not as, there's not much meat on that bone, I suppose. It's kind of the reaction I would have to it. It's certainly informational and interesting, you know, and a lot of it is me being kind of underwhelmed by it. Like, it doesn't seem like that big of a deal if it only happened from like 2005 to 2007, and like already like within the first couple months of it existing, people were starting to ban it. It just doesn't seem like a whoa, what a huge deal. I don't know if it was like, it just didn't seem like that big of a deal when she put it the way when she was giving the information she did. And you know, it's very uniform and not super like engaging and fun in the same regard, I guess. And she's made some other more like entertainment-based videos earlier. There's more kind of a documentary perspective, so understandable. But I thought it was okay, and I was happy that she was able to improve herself and acknowledge certain mistakes and do better, and challenge herself to do better. I think that's always something to appreciate and respect. So I liked that. It was good watch. Another Japan Stinks video. Japan Sinks 2020 went off the deep end, and I love it. From Weeb Revolution. Who is that, you might ask? It doesn't seem familiar. Surprise! It's the rebranded Shonen Ronin, and I think it's really just Calliope, on his own, you know, doing his own thing now. So it's kind of his channel at this point. It seems. And I know it's at least Cal. It's not like I know there's like a lot of other collaborators and things like that, but it's not like he put his name in the description or something. But he says like, I edited this video that like I talked about in Digest a while ago. And I know he edited that, so it was like, okay, I know it's him. And and this is just kind of an off the cuff rant talking about how he liked Japan Sinks and how certain things he liked. Weebs Are Forever on the thumbnail, and, his thoughts about it, and he mentions to like skip episodes 4 through 6, which is not my favorite thing in the world to say. I'm not very strong advocate for that sort of thing. I think you should let an art piece kind of say its whole thing, however good or bad that is, and not just like focus in on the bad parts, and not just cut out the bad parts is what I should say. But no, it was good hearing his perspective and spoiling it a fair deal. Talking very in depth about it. It's like this thing happens and then this happens, and talking more in depth about it. But it was chill. I actually really appreciated that, because I feel like a lot of other people with Japan Sinks, they're going to be trying to talk about it without spoilers, and this just doesn't seem like a show that kind of is in service to that. I don't think it really works the same way. But it was comfy, and I liked this off the cuff thing that Cal was doing. I don't really know if it's the first time he's done something like this, but I thought it was I thought it came out pretty well for if it was the first time or an early attempt, I suppose. I enjoyed it. And it was fairly edited too, and serviceably. It's not like whoa, what a well edited video sort of deal, but I liked it, and it was chill, and like some people are put off by the communist thing and the ideology and everything like that, but they didn't really have too much of that in here. A little bit, but it's fine. That's cool. I don't mind it. Not a criticism at all. It's just like certain things, different strokes for different folks, sort of deal, or something. But no, I liked that. Thank you for making that. I enjoyed that. It's also good to see like a positive take on Japan Sinks, because still not many people are talking about it. Interestingly enough, I just haven't seen as many. Everyone's making their Japan Sinks video, kind of like Devilman or something, or Azaken. You know what I mean? Like everyone and their mom is making an Azaken video, but this doesn't seem to have the same sort of thing going on. But I'm happy something like this is a more positive take, because I predict there will be not as many positive takes. But I enjoyed it. Thank you very much. That was nice. I got recommended a Film Theorists video, because I think one of my patrons is a co-writing credit on it, which is really exciting. That's actually really cool. Film Theory Naruto Run is best run. Would it be, would it do? But I've enjoyed MatPat for a while, and I don't have a problem with so much with him. And there's certainly some theories that I was like, yeah, that's an L. Yeah, he did. I don't think he did that one very well, sort of deal. I'm not like a huge fan, but I especially like what he does in terms of YouTube itself, kind of being the first one to really break the mystery box open in terms of what YouTube's algorithm is like. Guys, it's prioritizing watch time and things like that. I think he has a real value in the community in that way. I'm not subscribed to him though. I don't know. There's certainly problematic elements about him, but I certainly I don't hate him for sure. So I enjoyed this video in terms, of course, on an editing basis. It's always very, very well polished. Like they got great editors on here, specifically YouTube Poopers. I mean, I don't know if the YouTube Pooper did this one, but I know one of his editors is Number One, and holy shit, like they're great editing. It's really great editing, and maybe a little over edited sometimes. There might be some things where it's like you didn't have to do all this little dressing stuff. It might be kind of distracting, but it's certainly better than what he used to do, like way in the 2010, 11 sort of deal. Way better. But in terms of the video itself, this Naruto run, it's fine. It is just a film. It's really what you expect, and he does the thing where I talked about a couple weeks ago, where the common sentiment, like they'll be debunked of like saying it's the best run. There are people who have made this video already and have proven it's not, and he even cites several scientific studies that show it's not efficient for the human body. But he's like, no, but wait, let me finish. And he brings all of this evidence up. Like half the video is spent debunking the claim in the title. And it's like, okay. And he's like, no, but in this one specific circumstance, the fact that they are ninjas, supernatural ninjas who have superpowers, running like this is more efficient because they're running at the speed of sound or whatever, and they're reducing drag because they're going faster than Usain Bolt. Okay, and it's like, so because it's fiction, I see. What an interesting observation. I see. But and he's using it more as like a, hey, they teach kids science, teach kids about drag and certain scientific concepts. I think that's interesting, using techniques that they care about and stuff. But like, my twofold problem with it is it's not so much educational in that way because it's so bloated with jokes and the editing and like, making a video, making it engaging and entertaining. It doesn't really focus so much on the formula that they talk about here. I really didn't feel like I learned what drag was in the same way. I just feel like it just doesn't seem that sort of educational in that front. But I get the intention, and it's good in that way. But my other sort of like about it is, as an anime, as someone who's watching this because of anime adjacent, it really isn't about Naruto at all. He references it and kind of was like, look, they made this sonic boom attack in this random clip, but like they really aren't talking about Naruto as a series. And they're not like trying to find an in-universe explanation to why. Maybe there isn't one. If there isn't one, fine, fair enough. But it doesn't seem to be lore-based, It doesn't seem to be like about Naruto. It's just the aesthetic of running like this, which is very shallow in my opinion. It just kind of boils it down the same way everyone else has, the way it did in that Area 51 meme and stuff like that. And I just don't like seeing anime kind of boiled down to that, I guess. I just think it's so much more valuable and enriching than that, seeing like Anime Golem or Animated Golem on Twitter. There was a period where he was watching Naruto and talking about the EDs and kind of the technical mastery on display and the nuances and realism that they're the craft on display, and they're really talking about the anime or the story, I just appreciate that a heck of a lot more than just, he runs like this. You know what I mean? It's just a little shallow in my opinion. So, I didn't hate it because, MatPat's a very engaging, charismatic host. And, I know he didn't seem to fully write the video. But, for what it was, it was fine. It's good. But, it's hard for me to watch videos like this because of that reason. I feel like so many of them, they boil it down to this one core idea and simplify it, and a lot of people, it perpetuates a very shallow impression of anime that I wish was not so much the case. I mean, you can't help it, obviously, but not my thing. Well, I think it's time we talk about the best videos of the week. There's only 3 of them. You want to be what it do. And it's another glass reflection video to start us off. I don't know. I'm on a glass reflection kick. What can I say? I'm enjoying the content from him after kind of these long stretches of like not being so willing and like excited to watch his stuff, I suppose. There's a couple of string of W's for me. I actually really like them. This one from about hidden anime gems. It's a response to a video I have also. So it's like, I get it's kind of difficult where you're going to talk about a response to a video you've already talked about, or I make a point not to talk about the same thing in a series unless there's something drastically different or me to say about, because I could just talk about Trash Taste every week, which I don't really want to do exactly. And no, I also made my piece on this week's Trash Taste, but yeah, would it be? But this one I liked because it was very rare. I'm pretty sure it's rare for Arcada to make an unscripted video. He did not structure this the same way, and like he talks in this way when he goes over kind of like the review week of Awesome and like what things were nominated and the retrospective aspect. I always like watching those videos because I like hearing about his thought process as a creator and hearing more about him personally, I suppose. Not like his personal life or something like that. I mean, like, you know what I mean? Just as a metatextual. As a fellow content creator, of course I'm interested in that. But, talking about the comments here where usually they're a cesspit, of course. But in this case, it actually surprisingly attracted many people being like, I think this show is a hidden gem. And he kind of went show by very individual titles. He didn't really seem to comment on, some of the comments that had multiple items and stuff, but he kind of goes case by case. Obviously being transparent where it's like, I'm not going to think it is because I don't like that show or something like that. But he kind of talks about each one individually, and it uses this as a platform to boost other shows. And it's like, Genkatsuo, really good show. Nana, holy shit, really good show. Selling it, recommending it, please watch it. Stuff like that, and I love that. That sort of chill powwow sort of thing. And just talking about anime you wouldn't have otherwise discussed in an official capacity. And I'm looking to do something similar to that, but we'll get to it. Well, we'll see. But it's been an idea I've had for a while. But I want to do something similar to that because I love this idea, and it just kind of stirs the conversation and maybe gets somebody to watch a great show. I think it's awesome. I love that. So, I was happy to see that in that unscripted basis because, he obviously had some experience with off-scripted things from doing Podtaku for so long. But it's rare for him, I guess, and he's good at it. And I think it's just so much more natural, I guess. And I enjoy these videos a heck of a lot, in some cases more than his scripted stuff. That's just me. I was just complimenting and calling attention to that sort of idea. I like it a lot. So yeah, that was good, of course. Got a video thrown my way that was from a new guy, Matt versus Japan, responding to a Trash Taste podcast segment, why you should learn Japanese from anime. And he really doesn't quote them at all. He's just using them as the thumbnail, because that's the game. You know to play it. That's the game. And he has nothing but respect and admiration for Trash Taste for sure. But he does talk very thoroughly about kind of refuting the idea that you can't, or it's not a good idea because of the idea of like it'll be too different and unnatural from regular Japanese. And the real gist he gets to really, and he repeats it, is you can learn it and like it's still Japanese at the end of the day. You can learn about sentence structure, learn what words are. He recommends certain ways to study it using anime. That's how he learned it for a while and got so good at it. But he does then suggest it's like, yes, in order to get a more natural conversational sort of thing, it's only a matter of studying for a couple of weeks regular Japanese and listening to more conversational stuff. Do you practice the cadence? And it's very, as people who have studied Japanese and are currently studying Japanese in some capacity, it is a long, ongoing process. So he makes a really good point. Really good conversation, I think, and discussion about this. And I think I don't know. He was just giving me better vibes than Japanese Man Yuta. Not for any negative reason on Yuta. I just happen to like this guy a lot, actually, and I subscribed. He doesn't seem to talk as much like anime centric sort of deal the way Yuta is, but he is making a little follow up to this video soon, I guess. So I'll watch that probably. But it was good hearing about that to validate my own for saying. I mean, I don't really have a horse in the race when it comes to Japanese. I mean, I certainly think I've had a off the cuff, like I think watching anime has helped in some way, but I'm not going to say I learned it from anime or something like that. It's certainly I see the side of both the usual fence sitting shaves, I feel that on both sides, I guess. But it was good to hear good to discover this guy. I think you should check it out. And he has other videos, of course, discussing how to really learn Japanese effectively and how he got so good. And it's good, and it was friendly and not very elitist at all. This could come off as very like holier than thou. And I also want to point out that the clip selection was really good. Like taking stuff and yeah, I know. Like, what does that mean? I was thinking specifically with this video, he's using anime that that was helping his point, but we're exciting to see, like, oh, what's that anime sort of deal? Like, Fune Oamu. Nobody fucking talks or uses footage from that show. Or Kyoka, or, what was the other one? I don't know. But like, there's certain A Whisper of the Heart and certain things that's like, okay, you actually watch anime, and it's not like all Sailor Moon and all the surface level show and all the Naruto, and you know what I mean. It didn't feel like that, and so you get this sort of like, okay, he's in, he knows what he's taken from Whisper of the Heart and Funeo Amu and Hyoka. I just listed the same things. Monogatari, although a little stale in some places because he's using repetition, of course, and I think it's an effective tool, but it's not something I would do personally. Where like he's using the exact same clip when he's essentially repeating himself. When he's reinforcing an idea and using this clip to represent this idea. And he's using that clip every time he uses that idea, I guess. So he ended up using the same Monogatari transition between her like wearing the funky glasses and taking them off like 5 or 6 times. But it is, repetition is, I don't know what it is. Fuck. I don't know what the phrase is, but it's something like that. It reinforces and it makes it more important. I don't know. Fuck it. But I liked this video a good deal. Please check it out. I think it's a great response. That's the thing. He doesn't even really go after Trash Taste so much. He's really just kind of using them as a platform to discuss this idea, which I think is really cool. And last, I'm gonna save this as the last one. Anime interview with Seattle Seahawks defense. I guess DE is like defensive line. LJ Collier. Everybody Loves Anime Episode 1. I guess this is a new podcast series from Double Dragon Bros. Sorry. I was subscribed to these guys when they were really small, because, like in 2018, back when they were reviewing Megalobox, because obviously that was my fucking obsession, because Ashino Joe is my favorite anime, and Megalobox is the spiritual successor, in case you don't know. And so I was itching for everybody to talk about it and hear everyone's perspective on it and how is it being received, right? I just cared a lot about that. So I was watching a lot of episode reviewers on it and subscribing to these guys, and I never unsubscribed because why not? And they've since blown up. I think I definitely subscribed under 1,000 subs, if not within the first 5,000. Very, very, very early on. They were very small. And then they started reacting to some anime OPs. And then they started watching One Piece and Kuroko. They found a really strong audience with Kuroko no Basket, I remember, very early on. And they were growing up a lot there. And then they got One Piece, and yeah, they've been taken off. It's awesome to see, and seeing them kind of grow and improve their space and be better reactionaries. It's not like I've been following their stuff very consistently at all. But I watched them just in case they decide to make something different, like this. They're interviewing a legit football player for the NFL, talking about anime and how much he likes it. And this is definitely nothing new in terms of Crunchyroll articles they have an anime club or something like that. And I don't know, I think a lot of it comes off as a little shallow, and they're not really picking their brain and talking about these shows in that concrete way. They're just kind of using it as a flea, as a parasite, to be like, look, these buff NFL dudes watch anime, you can too, sort of deal. And in a sense, that's sort of what Dragon Bros are doing here. The moniker with Everybody Loves Anime is to really prove this idea that a lot of people watch it, a lot from all walks of life, and it is universally acknowledged and beloved. And I think that further validates it, I guess. It is anime doesn't have to be validated for some people. I'd like it to, because I like people enjoying what I've enjoyed and experiencing what I've seen, and getting that same sort of joy or fear or excitement or sadness or emotion, that same length that I had. Or maybe they have something different and I can further enrich my own understanding of it. And so that's something I really care about. So it's something that the Dragon Bros are really really trying to push here with this idea, and talking with this NFL player. And, they talk a little bit about his career for sure, and kind of talk about what it's like, because he's very new. It's his second year in the NFL. Unfortunate time to be a sports figure in this time. It sucks. But, they're making the best of it. And I liked how cordial they were, and friendly, and kept it on topic for the most part. And they were, had questions prepared, and wasn't super like Lucy and nonsense or something. But at the same time, I really liked that once they started talking about One Piece, and they weren't afraid to talk about like who's your favorite character and who's your waifu. They just one of their questions was, who's your waifu? And that's so difficult. I would find that kind of cringy and like hard to ask somebody. But he answered, and like really he's like I think it's Nami, and like Nami or Robin, and they're like, who do you prefer? And it's like, I'm a Nami person, and like normalizing it. And maybe people like don't normalize that or whatever, objectifying women or something. But it is kind of pushing forward this fandom, and being cool about it. And it was comfy, and I had a smile on my face the whole time. I mean, unfortunately, the audio isn't the best on the NFL players' end, and it can be difficult sometimes to follow the conversation. And it really is a little, you can't be expecting some deep cuts here. He's not going to be like, yo, I was watching some Saint Seiya the other... I mean, he could. It's on Netflix. He's seen Dragon Ball, but he was talking about how he saw Akame ga Kill, and how much he liked that, and Avatar. They very much just talked about Avatar in the idea, in the context as if it was anime. And some of us don't have, some of us have problems with that, and I would be on the opposite side of that, being like, yeah, I don't really consider it anime, and I think it's cool to own it as a Western property. That was a cool thing that the United States made. Like, yeah, it was animated in Korea, but it was conceptualized by Americans for an American audience. I think that's something we should be taking pride in, and not like, but it's Japanese! Look! Enjoy it! Validate my enjoyment because it's anime! Like, no. Like, I think it's great to call it an American animation or cartoon. And, and people are also trying to normalize cartoon when talking about anime as well, and talk about these more cartoony things, and more wacky, expressive things. It's like, no, these are great. This is equally entertaining and interesting and fun. And something that should also be normalized and validated. Like a lot of, I think there's just so many insecurities when talking about animation, just for the cultural point that it's in right now. It's been getting better for sure, but there is this cultural stigma about watching animation. And stuff like this podcast is really kind of pushing against that idea. And it's like, no, we can normalize it. We can really make it a cool thing and enjoy it. But I just liked that they talked to this NFL player as fellow anime fans and being like, bro, that fight though, and nerding out about it, really nerding out about it, and not like, yes, you like anime, Denzel Curry, do you like the animes? And he's like, yes, I love the Dragon Balls. You know what I mean? It felt like I think a lot of instances of this feel a little more robotic and sterilized, and they don't go for the throat and being like, dude, who's your waifu? Like, bro, I don't know. I just liked that a lot, and I was happy to see that from them, and they're expanding their content besides just reactions. Like, they make reactions their bread and butter, and that they're real meat of their content, but the fact that they're going so far and they're making this, and it's really cool, just in general, that an anime YouTuber is getting an interview like this with an NFL player. It's so cool. I just like it a lot, and I'm very happy to see that from them. I was very happy with it. So yeah, I mean, if it's up for you, it's like, I don't know, be like just them geek out about One Piece and Naruto, all this. And they were like, who's somebody what's an anime character that you want to embody on the field? And he's like, Goku. And it's like, all right, yeah, but the people who are on my level that are on like who are really into it who are watching this digest probably, right? They'd be like, like, no, but it's cool. I think it's great, and I'm happy it's happening. But yeah, I'm just repeating myself as usual. Believe it. I haven't seen Naruto. I don't know what I'm talking about. And that was probably a little less serious of a digest, I think. Thank you very much for watching it. Thank you to my patrons who make this possible and are very patient with me including Beamburst, Eden, Echo, Flugmorph, Hazel, Najbeb, MyAnimePod, Unique Nemosaurus, and Yellow Cheese. Thank you guys so much for watching. You guys have a great week. Yo, peace.